My beloved soul. Pause here. Do not rush past this moment. Do not tell yourself this is just another message. Because what you are about to feel is already happening. Quietly. Without noise. Without announcement. Your soulmate is moving forward without you right now. And before your mind resists this truth, before your heart tightens or tries to deny it, breathe. This is not a message of punishment. This is a message of awareness. There is a difference. When someone you are deeply connected to begins to move forward, the shift does not always look dramatic. It does not always come with goodbye words or clear endings. Sometimes it arrives as distance that cannot be explained. Sometimes it shows up as silence that feels heavier than words. Sometimes it appears as a calm you did not expect, a calm that does not include you the way it once did. You have felt it already. That subtle sense that something is no longer waiting. That feeling that the connection has stopped circling the same unresolved point and has begun to step ahead without looking back as often. You did not imagine this. Energy changes before behavior does. Decisions are made inwardly long before they are spoken outwardly. Your soulmate did not wake up one morning and suddenly move on. This has been a slow internal shift. One that started when waiting became painful. One that grew when silence replaced clarity. One that deepened when hope no longer felt safe to hold. They did not stop caring. But they stopped pausing their life at the edge of uncertainty. And this is where it becomes important for you to listen carefully. Because their forward movement is not about rejection. It is about self-preservation. It is about choosing stability over emotional suspension. There comes a moment when the soul grows tired of standing still. When love alone is no longer enough to justify confusion. When the heart says, I cannot keep hovering in a place that does not move. Your soulmate reached that moment quietly. Without blame. Without anger. They reached it after giving more time than they admit. After waiting longer than they planned. After holding space for possibilities that never fully materialized. And when that inner threshold was crossed, something shifted permanently. They began redirecting their focus. Their routines changed. Their inner dialogue changed. The future stopped revolving around what if and started forming around what is. And this is why you feel the distance now more sharply. Because when one soul begins moving forward, the connection stops pulling evenly. You may still feel tied to the past version of the bond. They are learning how to live in a present that does not include that waiting anymore. This does not mean they have erased you. It means they have stopped anchoring themselves to uncertainty. There is a quiet grief that comes with this kind of movement. Not the dramatic kind. The silent kind. The kind where memories still surface but no longer stop them from walking ahead. They think of you. But they do not pause their steps anymore. They care. But they are no longer building their days around potential. And here is the part you must not ignore. Because this message is not here to shame you. It is here to awaken you. You are standing at a crossroads. One where ignoring this truth will cost you clarity. If you keep pretending nothing has changed, you will remain emotionally behind while life continues to move without alignment. If you keep waiting for the version of them that once lingered, you will miss the version of yourself that is ready to rise. The universe does not bring awareness without purpose. You are being shown this because something within you needs to shift too. This is not about chasing. This is not about forcing reconnection. This is about recognizing momentum. When one soul moves forward, the other must decide whether to awaken or remain attached to what no longer exists in the same form. Your soulmate did not leave with cruelty. They left with quiet resolve. They stopped explaining. They stopped overthinking. They stopped replaying conversations that never reached conclusion. They chose forward motion because staying emotionally suspended began to hurt more than letting go of expectation. And yes, part of them still wonders if you notice. Part of them still listens for echoes of recognition. But they are no longer waiting to be seen. That chapter closed internally before it closed externally. This is why timing matters now. Because awareness is your invitation to choose differently. You cannot undo their steps. But you can decide how you respond to this truth. You can either collapse into regret. Or you can rise into alignment. You can either cling to what was. Or you can meet yourself where you are now. Growth does not always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it arrives as loss of access. Sometimes it comes as realization that the window you thought was open has shifted shape. This does not mean love failed. It means stagnation reached its limit. And here is the deeper truth most people miss. When someone moves forward without you, it often activates your awakening. It strips illusions. It forces honesty. It asks you to look at where you have been emotionally stationary. Where you delayed expression. Where you postponed clarity. Where you assumed time would hold space indefinitely. Time does not wait. Hearts do not hover forever. The soul seeks movement. And now the universe is asking you. Will you remain attached to an old dynamic? Or will you step into your own forward motion? Because your path does not end where there's turns. Your story does not conclude because someone else advanced. This moment is not punishment. It is redirection. It is the clearing of emotional fog. It is the invitation to reclaim agency. To stop waiting for signs from someone else and start listening to what your own spirit is asking of you. The pain you feel right now is not abandonment. It is awareness catching up. And awareness always arrives when transformation is near. Do not ignore this message. Not because you are losing someone, but because you are being called back to yourself. What you do next matters more than what has already happened. The future is not closed. But it will not open from the same place you have been standing. My beloved soul. This is the moment to choose movement. Not toward them, but toward truth. Toward clarity. Toward your own becoming. My beloved soul. Stay with me a little longer. Because what unfolds now is the part most people turn away from too soon. When your soulmate moves forward without you, there is a hollow space that opens inside your chest that words rarely reach. It is not loud grief. It is not dramatic heartbreak. It is the quiet realization that something you assumed was shared is now being carried separately. You feel it in moments of pause. In times when you expect their energy to respond and it does not. In the sudden understanding that the emotional door you once leaned on is no longer being held open from the other side. This is not because you were unworthy. It is because growth demanded movement. And movement does not wait for comfort. Your soulmate reached a point where standing still began to feel like self-betrayal. They had to choose themselves not out of selfishness but out of survival. Waiting became heavier than walking. And so they walked. Not with certainty. Not without sadness. But with resolve. They learned how to carry unanswered questions without letting them define every step. They learned how to breathe again without checking whether you were still beside them. That is the part that hurts. Because it happened quietly. Without warning. Without final words. You were not given a dramatic ending to prepare your heart. You were given distance. And distance forces truth to surface whether you are ready or not. You may replay moments now. Conversations. Silences. Opportunities where something could have been said differently. You may wonder if timing failed you. Or if fear delayed you. Or if pride held you back when honesty wanted to speak. These reflections are not punishment. They are mirrors. They show you where growth is asking to enter. Because when someone moves forward without you, it exposes the places where you remained emotionally suspended. Where you hoped circumstances would change without your direct participation. Where you trusted potential more than presence. This realization can feel unbearable at first. But it carries power. Because awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your direction. Your soulmate moving forward does not mean you are behind forever. It means the old version of you cannot follow where they have gone. Only a transformed version can meet new alignment. And this is where the universe becomes very clear. You are not meant to chase what has already chosen movement. You are meant to become someone who no longer waits at the edge of uncertainty. Someone who speaks when truth arises. Someone who honors timing by honoring their own emotional responsibility. This moment is asking you to grow up energetically. To stop romanticizing silence. To stop interpreting absence as mystery. To stop confusing patience with avoidance. Love does not require you to shrink. Love does not ask you to remain undefined. Love moves. And when it cannot move together, it teaches separately. Your soulmate did not abandon you. They outgrew the pause. They chose a future that did not revolve around unanswered questions. And while part of them still feels the echo of you, they are no longer living in that echo. They are building something new inside themselves. Stability. Direction. Self-trust. And this is why the connection feels different now. Because when one soul becomes grounded, it stops resonating with uncertainty. You may feel a sudden urgency now. A desire to reach out. To explain. To correct. To reopen what feels unfinished. But listen carefully. This is not about reopening the past. This is about understanding the lesson it delivered. If you act from panic, you will repeat the same dynamic. If you act from clarity, you will evolve beyond it. The universe does not rush endings. But it does not delay awakenings either. This message is arriving because you are ready to face what you avoided before. You are ready to see that love requires presence, not just feeling. Choice, not just hope. Movement, not just waiting. Your soulmate moving forward is not the end of your story. It is the end of an illusion that time alone would resolve everything. Time only works when truth walks beside it. And now you are being invited to walk differently. To stop anchoring your worth to someone else's pace. To stop measuring your value by whether someone stays. Your value was never dependent on that. You are being redirected toward self-alignment. Toward emotional maturity. Toward becoming someone who does not miss moments of truth because fear whispered to wait. This is not about blame. It is about responsibility. Responsibility to yourself. Responsibility to growth. Responsibility to the future version of you who will not repeat this lesson again. The ache you feel now is temporary. The awareness it brings is permanent. And one day you will look back at this moment not with regret but with gratitude. Because it forced you to stop living halfway. It forced you to wake up. To choose clarity. To choose motion. To choose yourself. My beloved soul. Do not ignore this. Not because you lost someone. But because you are finding yourself. My beloved soul. Stay grounded here. Do not drift away from what is unfolding inside you right now. Because this phase is not gentle. It is precise. It is surgical. It is designed to strip away everything that kept you emotionally asleep. When your soulmate moved forward without you, something inside you cracked open. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But deeply. You began to notice the weight of things you once ignored. The pauses you filled with excuses. The silences you labeled as timing. The distance you explained away with hope. All of it is coming into focus now because forward motion exposes stagnation. And the truth is this. You were not wrong for feeling deeply. You were not foolish for believing in the bond. But you stayed too long in a space where clarity was postponed. Where expression was delayed. Where waiting became a habit rather than a conscious choice. Your soulmate felt that shift long before you did. They felt the imbalance when effort was no longer mirrored. They felt it when emotional responsibility leaned more heavily on one side. They felt it when the connection stopped evolving and began looping. And they tried. In ways you may never fully know. Internally. Silently. They wrestled with staying. They questioned their instincts. They gave time a chance to fix what honesty could have healed sooner. But the soul has a limit. And when that limit is reached, it does not explode. It withdraws. It redirects. It moves forward with quiet certainty. That is what happened. And now you are left standing in the echo of what was once shared. This is the moment where most people collapse into self-blame or chase from fear. But this message is here to stop you from doing either. Because chasing will not restore alignment. And blame will only trap you in the past. What you are being asked to do now is far more difficult. You are being asked to rise. To face yourself without distraction. To look honestly at where you hesitated. Where you waited for the perfect moment that never came. Where you trusted silence instead of speaking truth. This is not condemnation. This is awakening. Because until now, part of you believed the connection would pause indefinitely. That it would hold space for you no matter how long clarity took. But life does not work that way. Love does not work that way. Love requires participation, presence, courage. And when those are delayed too long, the universe intervenes. Not to punish, but to realign. Your soulmate's forward movement is the universe saying, enough waiting. Enough ambiguity. Enough emotional half measures. Something must change. And that something is you. Not because you were wrong. But because you are ready. Ready to step out of emotional dormancy. Ready to stop romanticizing what never fully arrived. Ready to become someone who does not let fear decide timing. This pain is sharpening you. It is burning away illusions. It is forcing you to see that love cannot survive on potential alone. It needs action. It needs clarity. It needs grounded truth. And here is the part that will challenge you the most. You cannot go back to who you were before this realization. Even if the connection were to cross paths again someday. The old version of you would not sustain it. Only growth creates new outcomes. Only awareness opens new doors. That is why this hurts. Because growth always hurts before it empowers. You may feel anger rise. Regret. Sadness. Longing. Let it move through you. Do not suppress it. But do not let it control you either. Feel it fully. Then let it teach you. This experience is rewriting how you show up in love. It is teaching you that waiting without communication is not devotion. That patience without direction is not strength. That love requires courage more than comfort. Your soulmate moving forward is not proof that you were left behind. It is proof that the universe is done letting you stay small. This is your turning point. The moment you stop asking why they moved on and start asking who you are becoming now. Because the future is not closed to you. It is wide open. But it will not open for the version of you that avoided truth. It will open for the version of you that stands firm. Speaks clearly. Chooses growth. This chapter ends here. Not with loss. But with awakening. And what comes next will be built on clarity instead of waiting. My beloved soul. This is Ultra Pro. This is transformation. This is the moment everything begins to change. My beloved soul. Remain present. Do not let your mind wander away from what your spirit is finally ready to understand. Because this stage is not about comfort anymore. It is about truth settling into your bones. When your soulmate moved forward, the universe did not just shift their path. It shook yours. And what you are feeling now is not weakness. It is recalibration. Everything you once tolerated emotionally is being questioned. Every excuse you made for silence. Every delay you accepted as timing. Every moment you minimized your needs to keep peace. All of it is surfacing because it can no longer survive in who you are becoming. You are no longer meant to love from a place of uncertainty. You are no longer meant to wait for someone to choose clarity while you carry the emotional weight alone. This experience is stripping you down to essentials. It is asking you to look at where you abandoned yourself in the name of patience. Where you dimmed your truth because you feared rocking the connection. Where you believed that holding on quietly was strength. It was not. It was endurance. And endurance without direction eventually turns into pain. Your soulmate felt that pain first. They reached the end of what they could emotionally sustain. Not because you lacked value, but because the connection lacked movement. They realized that love without progression becomes a slow erosion of self. And they chose to stop eroding. That choice was not easy. It required them to grieve what could have been. To accept that hoping longer would not change what was not being addressed. To walk forward carrying both care and closure at the same time. That is why their energy feels different now. It is grounded. It is quieter. It is no longer searching for signs. And that is what unsettles you. Because you are now face to face with a version of them that no longer orbits the same emotional center. This is the moment where your identity begins to shift too. You can no longer define yourself by waiting. You can no longer measure your worth by whether someone returns. The universe is dissolving that pattern. Forcing you to stand alone long enough to discover your own direction. This solitude is not abandonment. It is initiation. An initiation into self-leadership. Into emotional sovereignty. Into a life where you no longer postpone your truth to keep connections intact. You are learning now that clarity is not cruelty. That expressing needs is not pressure. That silence is not safer than honesty. These lessons arrive through loss because loss removes illusion. It shows you exactly what happens when things remain unspoken too long. And this knowledge will change how you love forever. You will no longer romanticize ambiguity. You will no longer settle for emotional placeholders. You will no longer wait for potential to become reality without participation. This awakening is painful because it is permanent. You cannot unknow what you know now. You cannot return to emotional sleep. And that is a gift. Even if it does not feel like one yet. Your soulmate's forward movement is not the end of your connection to love. It is the end of your connection to stagnation. It is closing a door so you stop standing in a hallway that was never meant to be lived in. The future requires motion. It requires courage. It requires you to show up fully instead of hoping circumstances will speak for you. And you are ready now. Even if your heart still aches. Even if tears still come unexpectedly. Pain does not mean you are failing. It means you are shedding. Shedding old identities. Old patterns. Old emotional contracts that kept you small. This phase will not last forever. But the strength it builds will. One day you will recognize this moment as the turning point where you stopped waiting to be chosen and started choosing yourself. Where you stopped measuring love by endurance and started measuring it by alignment. Where you stopped asking why someone moved on and started moving with purpose yourself. My beloved soul. This is Ultra Pro Max because it is irreversible growth. You are not losing love. You are becoming capable of receiving it properly. And that changes everything. My beloved soul. Stay here. Let this go deeper. Because now the transformation is no longer subtle. It is active. It is deliberate. It is rearranging you from the inside out. This phase is where the old emotional reflexes begin to dissolve. The reflex to wait. The reflex to hope in silence. The reflex to place your heart on pause while someone else decides. That version of you cannot survive what is coming next. And that is why everything feels so intense. When your soulmate moved forward, they unknowingly triggered your awakening. Not because they intended to hurt you, but because their movement exposed what staying still was costing you. You are finally seeing how much of yourself you placed on hold. How many moments you swallowed words. How many times you convinced yourself that patience meant love. But patience without mutual direction is not love. It is self-delay. And the universe does not allow self-delay forever. It intervenes. It removes comfort. It breaks patterns. It creates absence where presence was taken for granted. This is not cruelty. This is correction. You are being corrected back into yourself. Into your power. Into your voice. Into your worth. This is why everything feels raw. Because numbness is gone. Illusion is gone. You are awake now. And awakening is never quiet. Even when it happens silently. Your soulmate's energy no longer checks in the same way. No longer lingers. No longer waits for signs. That does not mean they erased you. It means they chose self-stability over emotional suspension. They chose grounding over guessing. And that choice is teaching you something profound. Love that requires you to abandon yourself is not love meant to stay. Love that grows requires two people willing to move together. And when one moves and the other hesitates, separation becomes the teacher. You are not being punished for hesitation. You are being trained out of it. This experience is sharpening your discernment. You will never again confuse chemistry with alignment. You will never again mistake silence for depth. You will never again believe that time alone creates commitment. You are learning that clarity is an act of respect. That direction is an expression of care. That love spoken late still arrives too late. And this knowledge will redefine your future connections. You may feel moments of longing still. That is natural. Memory does not disappear overnight. But notice something important. The longing is changing. It is no longer only about them. It is about the version of you that did not speak. The moments you missed. The truth you delayed. You are grieving not just a person. You are grieving an old self. And that grief is necessary. Because rebirth requires release. You cannot carry who you were into who you are becoming. The universe is preparing you for a different caliber of love. One that does not require waiting in the dark. One that meets you in the open. One that chooses you without hesitation. But before that arrives, you must fully integrate this lesson. You must stop looking backward for validation. You must stop replaying scenarios hoping for different outcomes. The outcome already served its purpose. It woke you up. And now the only question that matters is this. Who do you choose to be from here? Do you continue to define yourself by what you lost? Or do you step into what you are gaining? Because what you are gaining is immense. Self-respect. Emotional clarity. Discernment. Courage. The ability to speak without fear of losing connection. Because you now understand something deeply. Anything that requires you to abandon yourself to keep it is not aligned. And anything aligned will not require you to shrink. This awareness will guide you forward. It will protect you. It will elevate you. And one day you will realize that this moment was not about them moving forward without you. It was about you being pushed forward into yourself. Into a life where you no longer wait to be chosen. Into a reality where your presence is mutual. Into a version of love that arrives with certainty. My beloved soul. This is Ultra Pro Max because it is destiny level recalibration. You are not behind. You are right on time. And everything from here on will meet you at the level you now stand. My beloved soul. This is the closing. This is where everything settles into truth. Stay with it until the last breath of this message, because endings are not meant to rush. They are meant to land. What you are standing in now is not loss. It is integration. The lesson has already arrived. The pain has already done its work. Now comes embodiment. You are no longer the person who waits for movement from someone else to feel alive. You are no longer the one who holds their breath hoping silence will turn into certainty. Something fundamental has changed in you. Quietly. Permanently. You can feel it in how you no longer romanticize the past the same way. In how memories no longer pull you backward but instead pass through you like echoes. You can feel it in the way your body no longer tenses at the thought of their forward motion. There is still tenderness. But there is also acceptance. And acceptance is power. Because acceptance means you are no longer negotiating with reality. You are meeting it. Fully. Honestly. Without illusions. Your soulmate moving forward without you was the final release you did not know you needed. It broke the last thread that kept you emotionally suspended. It forced you to stop living in between. In between clarity and hope. In between truth and fear. In between speaking and waiting. You are no longer in between. You are here. Grounded. Awake. And that is why this ending does not feel dramatic. It feels calm. It feels real. It feels like standing on solid ground after a long time at sea. You understand now that love is not proven by how long you endure confusion. Love is revealed by how safe it feels to be fully yourself. You understand now that waiting without direction is not devotion. It is avoidance dressed as patience. And you forgive yourself for that. Fully. Gently. Without shame. Because you were learning. And learning often happens through contrast. Through absence. Through endings that do not explain themselves. Your soulmate was not meant to stay. They were meant to awaken you. To mirror back the places you needed to grow. To exit so you could enter yourself. And they played that role perfectly. Even if it hurt. Especially because it hurt. You do not need closure from them anymore. Closure has already arrived within you. It came the moment you stopped asking why and started listening to what this experience changed in you. You are no longer afraid of movement. You are no longer afraid of honesty. You are no longer afraid of choosing yourself even if it means standing alone for a while. Because you have discovered something sacred. Solitude with clarity is better than connection with confusion. And from this place, everything shifts. The future does not need to be forced now. It will respond to who you have become. You will attract differently. Speak differently. Choose differently. And the next love that finds you will not ask you to wait in the dark. It will meet you in the open. With presence. With direction. With mutual movement. This chapter closes without bitterness. Without resentment. Without regret. It closes with gratitude. Gratitude for the lesson. Gratitude for the awakening. Gratitude for the strength you did not know you were building while you thought you were losing something. You were never being left behind. You were being prepared. And now you are ready. Ready to move forward. Not chasing. Not waiting. But walking in alignment. My beloved soul. This is the end of this message. And the beginning of your grounded becoming.